Lily Harper was a young woman with dreams far bigger than the modest life she lived. At just 23, she worked tirelessly at Rosie's Diner, a small, run-down restaurant nestled in the heart of New York City. The peeling paint on the walls and the flickering neon open sign outside seemed to mirror her struggles. Yet, no matter how tough things got, she always managed to smile. Lily had a rare gift, not just for serving customers, but for making them feel seen, valued. Despite the long shifts and barely enough wages to get by, she had a habit that made her truly stand out. Every night, after finishing work, she would gather leftover food from the diner and share it with the homeless people she passed on her way home. To her, it was a small gesture, but to those she helped, it meant everything. One particularly bitter evening, rain poured down in relentless sheets, drenching the city streets. As Lily hurried home, clutching her worn-out jacket tightly around her, she noticed a small figure curled up under a bus-stop shelter. A young boy, no older than 8, shivering in the storm, his clothes completely soaked through. She stopped in her tracks, her heart clenching at the sight. "Hey there," she said gently, kneeling beside him. "Are you okay? Where are your parents?" The boy slowly looked up, his face pale, his eyes filled with fear. "I don't have anyone," he whispered. "I'm hungry." Without hesitation, Lily took his cold little hand in hers and led him back to the diner. The rain poured over them, soaking them both, but she didn't care. Once inside, she wrapped him in a warm blanket and placed a steaming bowl of soup in front of him. As he ate, his face lit up, and for the first time that night, warmth filled Lily's chest, despite the freezing air outside. But what Lily didn't know was that someone had been watching. Across the street, a sleek black car idled quietly, its engine humming softly. Inside sat James Dalton, a billionaire known for his sharp business instincts and intensely private life. He had been driving through the area after a stressful day, hoping the quiet streets might clear his mind. And then he saw her. At first, it was simple curiosity. What was a young woman doing out in the rain, kneeling beside a homeless child? But as James watched her take the boy's hand, lead him to the diner, and care for him so selflessly, he found himself unable to look away. Her actions weren't for show. They were real, genuine, and they struck a chord deep within him. "Who is she?" James murmured to himself, his gaze locked on the diner. For the first time in years, something stirred inside him, something he couldn't quite explain. A feeling of admiration, maybe even wonder. Scribbling down the name of the diner, he drove away. But even as he returned to his luxurious penthouse, the image of Lily lingered in his mind. The next few days blurred together for Lily. Between exhausting double shifts and caring for her younger brother, who depended on her to pay for his school fees, she barely had time to think about the boy she had helped. But the memory of his grateful smile, that stayed with her, pushing her forward, giving her strength. Meanwhile, James couldn't shake the thought of the waitress who had captivated him that night. He had everything, more money than anyone could spend in a lifetime. Yet, no matter how hard he tried, James couldn't shake the image of her, drenched in the rain, offering warmth and kindness to someone who had nothing. It wasn't just her actions that captivated him. It was the purity of her heart. He had to know more. One evening, James made a decision. Dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, far too elegant for a small diner, he stepped through the doors of Rosie's. The soft jingle of the bell above caught Lily's attention. She was balancing a tray of plates, her hair slightly frizzy from the humidity, but her smile as radiant as ever. For a brief moment James froze, struck by the familiarity of her face. Lily greeted him with the same warmth she offered every customer. "Welcome to Rosie's. Have a seat anywhere you'd like," she said, her voice cheerful despite the exhaustion in her eyes. James chose a quiet corner booth, his gaze following her as she moved through the diner. She was just as kind as he remembered. He watched as she helped an elderly man count his change, offered a free coffee refill to a struggling mother, and even checked in on a regular who seemed unusually quiet. Every interaction confirmed what James already knew. This woman was extraordinary. When he finished his meal, James handed Lily the bill without saying much. But before leaving, he quietly slipped an envelope under his plate. Lily didn't notice it until she came back to clear the table. Inside, she found a thick stack of crisp bills, far more than any normal tip. Her hands trembled as she counted, her mind racing with questions. Rushing outside, she scanned the street, searching for the mysterious man. But he was already gone. The sleek black car she had spotted earlier? Nowhere in sight. For the rest of the night, Lily couldn't stop thinking about it. Who was he? And why had he left such a generous tip? The next morning, the diner was buzzing with its usual energy. Lily tied on her apron, ready for another long shift, unaware that her life was about to change forever. Her thoughts lingered on the homeless boy she had helped days ago, hoping he had found a safe place. But soon, the steady flow of customers demanded her attention. Around midday, the front door swung open, and in walked a tall, sharply dressed man. His tailored suit and polished shoes stood out among the casual crowd. Lily didn't notice him at first. She was busy taking an elderly couple's order. But then, the hostess approached her and whispered, "That gentleman over there asked for you to be his server." Lily glanced in his direction, surprised. She didn't recognize him at first, but when their eyes met, something about him felt oddly familiar. The man smiled warmly, his gaze lingering, as if studying her. Lily shook off the strange feeling and approached his table, her notepad and pen in hand. "Good afternoon," she greeted with her usual friendly tone. "What can I get you today?" The man hesitated briefly before responding. "I'll have the special, but only if you promise to take a break and join me for coffee later." Lily blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, I'm sorry, but I usually don't take breaks during my shift. Is there anything else you'd like with your order?" He chuckled. "Just the special for now," he said, handing her the menu. As Lily walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about him was different, like he knew her but was choosing not to say so. Throughout his meal, the man observed her closely. He saw the way she treated every customer, with patience and kindness, no matter how busy or chaotic the shift got. She carried trays with ease, smiled even at the grumpiest diners, and made sure everyone felt taken care of. To him, it was obvious. Lily wasn't just hardworking. She was remarkable. When she finally brought his bill, the man reached into his wallet, pulling out a credit card. But just as she turned to leave, he stopped her. "Wait," he said. "There's something I'd like to ask you." Lily paused, tilting her head slightly. "Yes." The man leaned forward. "Do you remember helping a homeless boy on the street last week?" Lily's eyes widened in surprise. "Yes, I do. But how do you know about that?" He smiled knowingly. "Let's just say, I saw something that day. A young woman who went out of her way to help someone in need. I was moved by your compassion." Lily blushed, slightly embarrassed. "It was nothing, really. He needed help, and I just did what anyone should do." "Not everyone would have done what you did," the man said firmly. "Most people would have walked by without a second thought." He handed her a folded piece of paper along with the bill. "This is for you," he said. "Open it after I leave." Lily hesitated, confused, but nodded politely. She watched as the man stood up, gave her one last smile, and walked out of the diner. Curiosity got the best of her, and she quickly unfolded the note. Inside was a check for $50,000. Her breath hitched. Beneath the staggering amount, a handwritten message read, "Your kindness has inspired me. Use this to create the future you deserve. A grateful stranger." Lily's hands trembled as she clutched the check. Heart pounding, she ran outside, scanning the streets for any sign of him. But he was gone. Her mind swirled with questions. Who was he? Why would he give her such a life-changing gift? And why did he feel so familiar? That night, in her tiny apartment, Lily couldn't stop thinking about him. She wanted to return the money. It was far too much for her to accept. But there was no contact information, no way to find him. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Lily's life began to change. With the money, she paid off her debts and started saving for her dream, opening a small cafe where everyone, including the homeless, could find a warm meal and a welcoming smile. Yet, one question remained unanswered. Who was he? Then, one evening, as she walked home from the diner, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, and there he was, the mysterious stranger from the restaurant. "I was hoping I'd find you," he said with a grin. Lily froze in her tracks, her heart racing. "You again? Why did you give me that money? Who are you?" The man stepped out of the car, his expression serious but kind. "I owe you an explanation," he said. "My name is Andrew Hale. I'm the CEO of Hale Enterprises." Lily's jaw dropped. Hale Enterprises, one of the biggest companies in the country, and he was its billionaire owner. "I didn't tell you who I was because I wanted to see how you'd react," he continued. "I've spent years building wealth, but I've never seen anyone as selfless as you. Helping that homeless boy. It wasn't just an act of kindness. It showed who you are." Lily was speechless, struggling to process everything. "But why would you care about me? I'm just a waitress," she whispered. Andrew smiled. "You're far more than that. You have a heart that money can't buy, and I believe the world needs more people like you." He handed her an envelope. "This is a deed to a small cafe downtown. It's yours now. Consider it. An investment in someone who deserves it." Tears welled in Lily's eyes. She tried to refuse, but Andrew gently insisted. "Just promise me one thing," he said. "Keep being the person who inspired me. Keep helping others." From that moment on, Lily's life transformed. Her cafe became a haven for those in need, just as she had always dreamed. And though she never fully understood why fate had brought Andrew Hale into her life,